Okay, Kelsey, we are recording.
We are live. Hello, Melissa.
Hi, Kelsey. How are you?
I am so great. Okay, welcome. This is our first episode of Let's Talk About It, right?
Yep, this is it, the first
Here we
one.
are. So I'm Kelsey Cunningham. I work at ParentLink. Background in schools, passionate about parent education, working with parents, caregivers, professionals all over the state so that we can all raise happy, healthy kids.
Love it. And I'm Melissa Maris, also work at the University of Missouri on the board for ParentLink and work as a consultant with SchoolLink. My background is in school mental health and have been doing this work in Missouri, like Kelsey, for a long, long time.
We're calling it Let's Talk About It because we are just going to talk about topics that we are seeing on the warm line, on our School Link line, and we'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode,
Yeah,
right?
so real questions and needs from real people from across Missouri, focusing in on that. And so, do you want to get us started with one of those recent calls, Kelsey?
Absolutely. So, recent call. I pick up the phone. It is a dad in central Missouri. He has an elementary school age daughter. I think let's call him Dave. We're going to call him Dave. Um, and he is homeless. He has a place lined up, couple months down the road. He's safe, kiddo is safe. He is trying to enroll the kid in school, and the secretary at the school is saying, "Hey, there's no proof of address. We can't take your kid. We can't enroll your kid." So immediately I'm thinking to myself, and he is distraught, right? Because he has a job, he needs to go to his job, and to be able for him to move into this new place, he needs to keep that job, and his kiddo needs to be in school, right? She's lovely. We need her in school.
And Kelsey, where are they
And
living? Where are they living now? Well, living at the time of the call.
they're living in an extended stay hotel.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. And in my head, I am thinking, this this cannot be right. So I'm talking with dad and I'm telling him, I I know there might be a workaround. I know there might be a solution. I am going to help you. I'm going to call you back. I am with you. Thank you so much for calling. And I get off the call and I think we've all done it, right? We're all thinking to ourselves, why don't I know this? I should know this, right? I think that's a very common, I don't know, I get a little insecure sometimes. And I'm like, no, there has to be a solution.
Yes.
So I get on the computer and I'm emailing you and I'm saying, here is the situation. And you pop back with,
McKinney-Vento. Yes.
yes. And I'm thinking to myself, I should know this. I've spent years in a school. Why do I not know this? But
And
hey,
Kelsey,
let's give
you're
ourselves
not
some grace.
alone. This is
No, we're
something
not alone, right? We
absolutely
can't know everything. So I'm
correct.
utilizing, I don't work in a silo. I'm utilizing my supports. So you tell me about McKinney-Vento.
Yeah,
So let's talk
absolutely.
about it.
Yeah, so let's talk about McKinney-Vento. So McKinney-Vento is a federal law that was put in place essentially to protect the educational rights of homeless youth. And so essentially what this law says is that any young person and their grown-ups who are experiencing homelessness have a right to access public education through public schools. They
Mhm.
kind of have two different choices. One, ideally, once the homelessness occurs, that young person will continue to be educated at their local school, their school of origin, even a preschool, or they can be educated in the district where they currently live. So if, for example, they transitioned out of that space and are in a new space and living there. And I think one of the things, Kelsey, that was really striking when you reached out to me about this call was one, the concern of the dad that he was going to get hotlined. So he knew that, so he's in temporary housing. He has a job. He has a plan lined up to get himself and his young daughter into permanent housing, but he's staying in temporary housing. And he calls to try to register her in a local school, and they say no. And he was worried that he was going to get hotlined. He knew he couldn't leave
Absolutely.
his child alone in the hotel while he went and did his job. And so kind of in this pickle. So McKinney-Vento. But also you're not alone in not knowing this. This is something that lots of folks don't know and don't know that this exists. It existed for a while. And that all young people and their families have this right. I think it's also really helpful with McKinney-Vento, and when we're talking about homelessness in general, is to really think about what that means. So what it means to be homeless and what it means for a
Mhm.
young person to be homeless. I think a lot of us tend to kind of revert back to sort of our own stereotypes of someone who is homeless is living on the street, they're sleeping in their car, maybe they're
Absolutely.
in a shelter. But actually, homelessness, it's really about the stability of housing. So, yes, it means living in a shelter or living, quote, unsheltered, which is living in, on the streets in a car, in some sort of situation that is not meant to be housing. It also could mean just unstable housing, maybe families doubling up. And so I think, are all aware of families that going through difficult times will go and live with another family. That youth in that situation is also considered homeless. And it also means folks like your caller who are living in hotels and motels, so in temporary housing that also
Mhm.
qualifies as being homeless.
You're absolutely right. And this dad was he felt crushed because he was trying to do the right thing. And just didn't have the information or the words, which none of us do sometimes.
Right.
So
But he
the
asked for help,
excited
right? He asked you
he
for
asked
help.
for help,
And then you were
which was
like, wait, I need
huge.
help too. And so
I
you
need
asked
help
for
too.
help.
So it's this circle of help. I love it.
Absolutely.
So then the best part of this call, of this quote unquote story, we're going to call the dad Dave. So I called Dave back and I said, I think it would be really helpful if we called the school together. And he said, I would really appreciate that. So we call the school and we're talking to the attendance secretary and I'm explaining to her who I am. I'm on your team, I'm on your side. And I'm explaining to her there is this act, and here's what it's called, and here's what it means for this dad. And you know what she says? She says, "Oh, I had no idea." She said, "That changes so much for me." We'll
Absolutely.
call her Maria. And I was like, "Hey, I had no idea either." And she's like, "Oh, so can you actually type this up in an email and email it to me? And then I'm going to share it with the office staff. I'm going to take it to my admin." And it created this really beautiful, like, kind of domino effect. We now know this information. And, she and I corresponded and talked. But bottom line, this dad was able to enroll his kiddo in school. And then when we followed
Yay.
up with him, yay, he was able to go to work. They're now in housing. And that's a story that wrapped up really neatly. Not all stories do, but I was so happy to know about the act. And I want you, if you're able to, or if you have time, talk a little more about the liaisons, the homelessness liaisons, and also this is not, we all know, this is not an isolated incident.
Right. Unfortunately.
Um, we have all, those of us who have worked in schools, we care about the kiddos in our classroom. Whether you are a teacher, a school counselor, you work in the lunchroom, we all know of children who are, they move around a lot. A lot of our vulnerable populations have so many other concerns, and stable housing being one of those. And I know I spent years working with certain students worrying that they weren't going to re-enroll or they weren't going to be in district. So this call is not an isolated incident. We all have this concern and it affects all of us. So I would love for you to talk a little bit more about the data if you're able
Yeah,
to. I
absolutely.
love a good data piece.
My favorite four-letter word, data. So McKinney-Vento covers guaranteeing educational rights for homeless youth or unhoused youth. And so in terms of the kind of the scope of the issue, what it looks like in our state and then also nationally. So the latest data we have from Missouri is from the 22-23 school year. And at that point, they were able to assess and count almost 35,000 students in our state who were quote unquote homeless. And so that includes, again, being in a shelter, being on the streets,
Are
being hotels, motels, or doubling up, right? And so those are the latest data we have from 22-23. At the national level, what we see, and these are more recent data, is that there was actually a pretty significant increase from 2023 to 2024 in terms of the total number of children under 18. So people under 18 in terms of how many youth were unhoused. And so upwards of 30%. So a 30% increase from 23 to 24. So even though we can't look at the data yet for Missouri,
Mhm.
what we know is that it was 35,000 in 22-23, and that number has continued to increase. Of course, some of that is because of a growing awareness of McKinney-Vento, of the larger definition. But in general, it's clear this is a huge issue. We all know housing has been a significant challenge for many, many years for many families, also during COVID and post-COVID. And housing is a really giant challenge. So in terms of what our state is doing, and specifically our State Department of Education, so every school district in our state has what we call a homeless liaison. So this is the person in the district who is the point person for all things homelessness. So in your example of the friend who called in and was concerned about not being able to register his daughter, there is a homeless liaison designated in the district where he was trying to enroll his child. You can actually access that on DESE's website. There's a list of all of the
Oh,
homeless
and we're going to
liaisons.
post that.
Absolutely, and we'll put the link down in the notes. There's also a lot of additional resources on DESE's website, several links to national resources that are just lots and lots of different things. A couple things that I wanted to highlight, we'll also put these where folks can access it, is one like a basic like one pager that is geared towards parents and caregivers, just so that they know what their rights are in terms of being able to access public education.
Pat cares
Um,
about
yeah,
the homeless population as well.
absolutely, I can tell.
Yeah.
So one pager for parents and caregivers, and then there is another similar kind of document. It's super brief that just kind of goes through things that schools can think about when they are talking to a
Okay.
grown-up about this homelessness issue, and so kind of considerations. But again, I really like looking at some of these documents just for the language. And again, that it's just basic information that a lot of times people just don't have. And so we'll
Absolutely.
absolutely post those resources there. And also, again, if folks have, so Kelsey, here's my question. If folks watch this, they look at all the resources and they still have questions, what can they do?
Ah, I love that you asked because and I truly do love that you asked because we all can access the documents, right? But I think that there is real value in what you and I do every day and all the Parent Link staff. We talk, we figure things out together. So I want to plug Parent Link. I want to plug Warmline. I want to plug School Link because there is just great value in if you are a professional and you are in the classroom and you have some of these concerns, or even if you don't, like you're on the DESE website and you're like, I don't, okay, it's on here. I need to talk this through with someone, or I can't find it, or what are my next steps? Okay, I know about this act. Who do I go to with this
Mhm.
information? Like, what is my district or what is my building doing with this information?
Right.
I want you to call us. I
Yes.
want you to call. I want you to talk to us. You get a real live person. You get me, you get Rachel, you get Morgan, you get Lori.
But yes, we're going to do this weekly. And also would
Yes,
love to get questions from you
I
all. So
love it.
we're focused on answering real questions from real people. We have lots of questions that come into our offices, but also want to give you all an opportunity to ask other questions. And so we'll have some more information on that as well. Kelsey, this was a lot of fun. I'm really proud
A
of us
lot of
for doing
fun.
it.
Okay. Thanks so
Awesome.
much, Melissa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye, everyone.